Good morning, everybody.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Who's got a win from the weekend for us? What do we got? What happened this weekend? I guess it doesn't have to be a win. There was a struggle. What happened? We just sit on the couch this weekend? Who made something happen?
I had a good weekend.
All right, Frankie, let's go. What do you got?
A few weeks ago, my wife wanted a new refrigerator, so I bought her one for her birthday. And when the delivery guy came, the first thing I said to him was, "Hey, man, what's your living situation like? You own your own home?" He said to me, "No, but I'm thinking about buying a home." So I gave him my digital business card, and we talked a little bit, and that was that. And yesterday, he hit me up. Hey, man, I'm ready to start my home buying journey and all. And he's been on my website, and he's going through it all. And anybody who knows me knows my biggest gripe is I don't get out of the house much because I got the kids and all, and I can make an appointment and go, but I don't get out and meet people enough. So that's why I want to utilize the lead program. But I got a lead that came to my house, and we're making it happen. So I was quite excited yesterday. I had a great day yesterday.
Awesome. Awesome. I love when that stuff happens. And in our business, we kind of always got to be on, right? Always on. You just never know what's going to kind of come your way. And you got to spark that conversation and see where the hell it goes. So Jeff and Linda.
So we have a new listing and hosted an open home on Saturday. Afterwards, I stopped at the fresh market and I went to check out, and the gal said, "Oh my gosh, you look so lovely, and I feel like a slob in my jeans." And I said, "Oh, absolutely not. I just came from an open home." And she goes, "Oh, I love open homes." She goes, "Wait a minute, are you a realtor?" I said, "Yes, in fact, I am." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, may I have your card? I want to buy a home in September." I said, "Yes, I would be delighted." And so she sat there and she pulled out her little notebook and she wrote her information, and I gave her my card, and that is delightful.
Wow. So two situations where you guys are just sparking up some conversation. Real estate comes up and boom, we've got a client. So I mean, we talk about all the different ways to generate business, but just being out and about and talking to people and just never knowing where it's going to lead to is definitely one of the best ways to go about it. So I'm glad, Frankie, you didn't even have to go out. So pretty cool. Anybody else got a story to share? Maybe it was just the weekend for real estate. Well, we always talk about not being a secret agent. Get out there, do something that you love. I am really excited back from I spent 10 days down in Florida, 4 in Orlando and 6 over in Sarasota, and had a great time down there with friends and family. And for whatever reason, pickleball kept coming up. We didn't get a chance to play while we're down there, but good old Amazon took care of us, and we have 4 paddles, and I'm excited to get out there and play some pickleball. And it's something I played a lot of tennis. I played a lot of ping pong. I'm sure I'm going to love it. My kids are excited. So, and if I was out there joining a club or a league or whatever, there's no doubt I can pick up some real estate business. So, anybody want to share anything new that you started to do where you feel like you haven't done it yet, but you're going to pick up some business from it? What are you doing that you love, or is there something that you love that you should be doing that you're not doing enough of? My win for the weekend was also while we were down there for the volleyball tournament. One of the fathers from one of the other players showed me his backyard training setup. My daughter's really been starting to take it pretty serious, so I purchased the setup and everything, but I was like adamant that when everything comes in, her and her brother are going to have to put it together. And neither one of these kids seem to have patience when it comes to building things. So I seem to always have to get my hands in it. And I said, I'm going to stay away this time. And so the package came in yesterday, and they were out there, and it started to rain. And even through the rain, they persisted, and they built the whole darn thing. And you could just see how proud they were of themselves that they built this thing. I mean, it stands like 10 feet tall, and they had to use a ladder, and it was awesome. So, but I'm just glad that I was able to just stay hands off and let them fail a little bit and kind of push through it. So that was my win for the weekend. Um, so the reason for the song this morning, I wanted to share a fable that, this one came across from one of my bloggers, and I've heard a lot of these things, but and who's heard the man, the boy, and the donkey? Raise your hand if you've heard that fable, the man, the boy, and the donkey. All right. I'm not the only one. I'm like, did I miss something in kindergarten or preschool or something? But I've never heard this. But I just thought it was fitting, because I feel like this is I think we're people pleasers, and I think this story tells a lot. So the story goes like this. A man and his son were going with their donkey to the market. And as they were walking along by its side, a countryman passed them and said, "You fools, what is a donkey for but to ride upon?" So the man put the boy on the donkey, and they went on their way. But soon they passed a group of men, one of whom said, "See that lazy youngster? He lets his father walk while he rides." So the man ordered his boy to get off and got on himself. But they hadn't gone far when they passed two women, one of whom said to the other, "Shame on that lazy lout to let his poor little son trudge along." So the man took his boy up with him on the donkey. By this time they had come to the town, and people began to jeer and point at them. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself for overloading that poor donkey?" So the man and the boy got off and tried to think what to do. They thought and they thought, till at last they cut down a pole, tied the donkey's feet to it, and raised the pole and the donkey to their shoulders. They went along amid the laughter of all who met them, till they came to a bridge, when the donkey kicked loose, fell over the side, and drowned. "That will teach you," said an old man who had followed them the whole way. "Please all, and you will please none." So, I think as agents, I think we can get caught in this. I think people pleasers are the types of individuals that end up getting into our business. But it's difficult if you're trying to please everybody all the time. I know this is something that I need to work on. And we just got to do it my way sometimes, right? So anybody want to share a story along these lines of maybe a time where trying to please too many people and it backfired, or a time where you were, you know what, I'm going to do it my way, and maybe I'm going to piss somebody off, but we're going to get this thing done. Do we have a story to share? I will say, I think this happens with clients, right? When they come to you with their laundry list of wants, and you want to try and get them everything, but it's that delicate balance of, you know what, we're not going to be able to get all your 10 must-haves, and trying to have that conversation with them that you can't get the good school and the pool and updated and the kitchen and the home office and the in-law suite. Like, it's not going to happen. And nobody ever gets everything that they want. So it's like, we've got to slowly let them down, and it can be a balancing act. The other thing that I kind of jotted down on this topic was when it comes to marketing. I think, especially if you're on social media, or you're following Jason Pantana and the Tom Ferry organization, they're constantly talking about some new marketing, or this marketing, or try that marketing. And it can be overwhelming if you're trying to do all of that stuff and try all these different methods, and you're doing postcards, and you're dialing, and you're doing social, and you kind of got to figure out what your jam is, and don't worry about everybody's telling you to do all these things. Anybody else think of any other scenarios where this is really hitting you? Keely.
So this just stirred up something in me about a client who was buying a home. She was kind of looking for to purchase a home to rent it out. And so I was showing her homes all over the place. And when it came time for us to write an offer on the home, we went through the comps as to, how, where I feel we should go in. And then, we discussed it. So I wrote the offer. I said, this is how, we do this e-sign. I went through everything about, the offer, and she started screaming at me. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell. I am buying this cash. You just tell that agent that I have cash and I'm good for it. And I said, well, I can understand that you're upset right now. I said, that unfortunately is not how it works in this industry. And she just kept ranting, this is bullshit, screaming at me. So I said, I can see you're upset right now. So maybe we need to take a breath and let's just go over this again together. So like I kept going over the process and then she wouldn't stop. So I said, finally, I said, Diana, you're being very disrespectful. Please don't shoot the messenger. I did not make up the rules here, how we're going to go about this. She's like, why can't we do this in paper? Like she was not comfortable e-signing. Anyway, she just was so disrespectful. And I said, Diana, I need to go now because I am not letting you or anyone else speak to me this disrespectfully. And if you would like to work with me, fine. But I cannot be treated like this. Like I had to draw a boundary. She was just out of control and she was fearful. And I understand that. And I try to address her fears, but she was just, she was nasty. She was just very nasty to me. So I said, I don't give a shit. I am not working with her.
Yeah, I think this one of the things that this industry can do is really help us grow as individuals. And I think going through that scenario, and the more that you go through it, the better. Just like anything that you get at handling it, So great share, and hopefully there's a situation similar going on for somebody else on this call, or it's going to give them a spark to say, you know what, this is not how this one's going to go down. So good share. Anybody else on this topic before we switch over to the roundtable? All right. Who's got something going on, a deal, a lesson learned, something that you're struggling with on one right now, or a weird situation that you just want to enlighten everybody? Go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah, I had a really weird one. I've been doing this a long time, and I had a deal that's been just going on forever, and we were hoping to close before tax time. Imagine that, and unfortunately, we were not able to. The lender didn't clue me in or never mentioned to the buyer to file an extension for his tax return. So my client's accountant filed the taxes, and of course, lo and behold, there was an issue where the income, because he's a contractor, his, income expenses like we do, obviously came into play, and now he had to file, to modify his tax return. They said it could take 13 weeks for the IRS to respond. We've already been waiting, like, I think it's been like 6 weeks. And so lo and behold, I had to ask for another extension. I don't even know if they're even going to agree to it. The at the beginning was the seller giving us, I think it was like 2 months without a purchase and sales, which put us beyond the April 15th filing deadline. And so now the result is this situation comes up. So boy, I wish the lender would have let me know that, to remind him not to file. If I was working with Jason or Peter, they would have definitely made sure to mention it to me or clue me in on that email.
So just kind of wrap that up, Tracy. Make sure I understand where you think we could have done better here. Right? It's tax season, and everything's going fine with based on the pre-approval from last year's tax return, but they filed this year's tax return, and now they had to use that tax return as how to qualify. Is that what happened? And had they just done an extension and not filed, you wouldn't have had a new tax return to go off of? Is that what you're saying?
That's the impression that the lender gave me. He never mentioned to me that specifically that he has to show a certain process, a profit. or anything like that. It just came up after the tax. He called me. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened." His tax accountant filed the taxes, and now we're looking at the income, and the income is not where we needed it to be, although
Yeah.
the past years were fine. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just communication. I wish the lender never ever included me in on that. So it's something that, you know, a lender that we know would have mentioned, because they always mention whenever there's anything we gotta a pitfall we got to look out for. They always let us know this so we can prepare and remind our clients to avoid this.
Yeah, this is a great share, Tracy. I really appreciate you bringing this one. And from whatever Jan 1 till middle of April, this is definitely something that we got to keep in mind. If they're being pre-approved based on last year's tax return, filing a new one, we might want to talk to the accountant to say, hey, does this one differ at all from last year's before you file it? Because once that's filed, now that lender is going to have to use that return. So, Lauren, did you have something?
I was basically just going to say exactly what you did, that this is a huge thing that we really need to focus on beginning of the year, right? If we have a client that knows there was some sort of a big change to their taxes, and it is, beginning of the year before they file, that we can use the previous years until they file. Well, once we hit that April 15th date, the lender has to use that previous year. They can't go back like 2 years at that point. I did that this year as well. I closed on my home on April 4th. Hadn't needed to be pushed to the 15th or later. They have to look at the next year's tax returns.
Yeah. So I think the way out there would be to have your accountant file for an extension, and I think you can work around it. If that deadline comes up, you could file for an extension and then still use the previous year. I think that would work. I don't know if anybody can speak to that you can't do that, but I think you can. So it's a great share, Tracy. Thanks for bringing it. Who else has something that you learned on a deal that could benefit the group? Well, I had jotted something down, I kind of asked for stuff on the side. And if you guys ever have a scenario that you want me to add to my list, if something comes up and you're like, oh, I don't want to forget this in the morning call, and you want to just share it with me directly, please feel free to shoot me. Hey, there was a situation, I learned this, or if you see something on in Roundtable that you think would be great for a morning call and you want to tag me on it, I can grab it and add it. But it's something similar. When we did an extension, we had a client who was a buy sell, and on the sell side, the buyer needed to extend the closing. So this also extends the closing on the buy side for our client, right? And the sellers from our buy side wanted some fees and costs covered, HOA fees for the next month, because they weren't the ones that forced the extension. So how do we go about that, right? How do we go about negotiating something that's fair when we're doing an extension to somebody? The reality is, when these things come up, I think one reasonable extension, I don't know that you owe anything, right? One reasonable 3 to 4 weeks of an extension, I don't think you need to cover any fees or whatever the case might be. But you start to get over that kind of first 3 to 4 weeks, kind of where Tracy's at, right, with her deal. Maybe you go to those sellers and say, hey, look, I know this is ridiculous that we need 13 weeks. You guys were willing to offer us, whatever, $5,000 in closing costs. We're willing to take that down to $2,500 to stay in the deal, or something like that. So if there's concessions involved, let's try and negotiate on those concessions. I don't know if anybody else wants to share an experience of what else they've done to stay in a deal or handle fees that somebody's asking for when a deal gets extended. Anything coming to mind, or something else to watch out for?
So on this specific deal that that the scenario came from, it was not a very high amount. It was like a $400 1 month fee that they were looking for. And so the easiest solution was there was a credit from the buyer to the seller on each transaction for the equal amount. So instead of trying to get the buyer from, 2 transactions over to give money to the second transaction, we had our buyer credit the seller, and then their buyer on their sale credit them. So it worked out. We just did the even credit on both transactions. You're muted, Steve.
Yep, yep. And it's sparking anything for anybody on extending and credits and something like that you want to remind everybody of? Another thing that I had jotted down here is apparently we had a client in a difficult situation with a condo complex that has pending litigation. So it could potentially impact the client if they decide to sell it. So just something to be aware of when you are, buying condos. You really got to look at the condo docs. You really got to look at the meeting minutes, and you really got to look at the financials to understand, what am I getting myself into if I buy into this? Because the problem with condos is you don't hold much of a say when there's 50, 100 units, and there needs to be something done. You're going to get that assessment. If there's pending litigation, what are the protections that you have depending on how that outcome ends up? So I don't know if somebody from leadership that might have submitted this one wants to talk about this particular pending litigation situation. Anybody remember this? Anybody have a situation that happened with a condo to share of, hey, this was going on and this is what happened? Personally, I've done a couple deals where you had pending litigation on a condo. I think it's very tough if you don't know, what the max that my client could be exposed to move forward on something like that. If there was a situation where, hey, the max that you're going to get hit with here is $2,500 if this doesn't go, your way. And hey, can you live with that? Yes, I can. But what the max potentially is, I think it's very difficult to advise your client to move forward. Nicole.
I was just going to say on this, I don't remember the specific situation you're talking about, but this is just a reminder that when you're on the buy side for condos, try to get those condo docs as soon as possible, because these are the things you would want to get to sooner than later.
Yeah, ideally before you're spending money on inspections to find out that this is going on.
Yeah, sometimes you have to push the listing agent. They don't really understand the urgency of it. So I would push for those to try to get those before inspections, before you have your buyers spend money.
Margaretta had put something here in the comments that when you're purchasing on condos, you might want to, if there's others for sale in the complex or others that recently sold, it might not hurt to look at the disclosures or firm remarks on some of those other ones to see if something gets mentioned there that maybe the listing agent on the one that you're purchasing didn't mention to disclose. So, Pat.
I've noticed on the last couple of condos that I've done, they just give you a website. They're just like, go to this www.com website, get the docs there, or call them yourself. Like they're not very helpful on the list side to get you the information you need. You have to kind of do it on your own.
Were those property management websites, Pat, or was it a general place where
it's usually whoever is running the like in Northampton, there's this one that runs them all. And so, they'll give you the website and be like, go to the website, figure it out. And then sometimes they want a deadline on it as well. Like we want to know before inspection's over if you're going to stay in the deal. And I'm like, can you get me the meeting minutes and the rules and regs? And they're like, I put the website on the MLS. Just call them. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, okay, relax.
right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just found I've noticed it now. I did over the weekend. I did some showings at Chicopee, and it was the same thing. It was just a website. It was like www.doverbrook, www.ridgeway. And my client, I gave her the website, and she's like, none of the meeting minutes are on there. None of the, the actual information's not on there. And so I'm like, okay, well, if we get the condo, well, I'll do my best to get you the stuff ASAP.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't move forward without reviewing that stuff. Some of these condos are not in the greatest of shape, and now you're taking on a new liability that you weren't expecting. So, Jeff and Linda.
Yes. Thankfully, in Florida, there is a requirement that all of those documents be made available within 3 days of signing a contract. So it's something here where it makes perfect sense and everybody's on top of it. In Illinois, it's so backwards. They don't have to get those to you until before the closing, which that's putting the cart before the horse to ask somebody to make a purchase when they don't really know what they're purchasing. So getting those documents is like pulling teeth. And so what I started to do for my clients was look in the MLS for homes or condos that had recently sold in the same community. And every once in a while, you're going to come across an excellent listing agent who posted those documents in additional information, and you're able to pull them and provide them. So I'll just take the whole list and go click on every single listing and find them, as long as I'm not sending them something from like 2012, but I'll look at everything that's sold and send them everything I possibly can. So at least typically they're going to get the declarations, the rules and regulations. Seldom do we see the financials posted, but it's easier to try to track down this, one piece of information rather than everything. And especially when it comes to things like pet policies, smoking policies, things like that, you can get those to your clients in a timely fashion so that they don't spend money on a home inspection only to find afterwards, oh, wait a minute, we wouldn't have bought this condo. My husband smokes and they have a no smoking policy, or whatever it may be, or, Fufu, the dog can't come with me. I'm not buying this place, whatever. So, that might help, because I just find that so often when you put in a phone call to the management company as a realtor asking for those documents, the answer is no. The request has to come from the homeowner, et cetera, et cetera. And the other tip I have is when you're taking a listing in a condo, please ask your seller to provide those documents. And if they don't have them, to request them from their management company straight away so that you can be that listing agent that shines and post them for your potential buyers and make everybody's life easier.
Yep, that's it. A little extra legwork, and typically it's not even you, it's just you asking your clients to do the legwork. So cool. Yeah, I think smoking policy, pet policy, rental policy, if they are, considering renting it out, sometimes there's a time limit, how many times a year, for how long, and then what else was I going to say on the rental? Oh, and how many people. Right. I was just looking at a condo where they were going to say no more than 4 of the units could be rented at any given time in this complex.
Right. And also in some instances, you have to live in the unit for 18 months or 24 months before you may rent. So that's all super excellent information that if you have it up front and you can post it as the listing agent, you're really helping everybody on both sides of the transaction and saving everyone a lot of time and aggravation.
Jen.
Hey, I was just going to say, I posted Renee's contact info for Doverbrook, but that's actually what I was going to suggest is when you're selling condos at certain places and you get that information, that key person's information, to save it along with any notes in your phone. And things can change, but at least you have an idea when somebody says, can I have a pet at that condo, or is it FHA approved?
Yeah,
I don't know. I find that really helpful.
If you start to get to know, if you start to find like I'm doing business, at this complex a lot or in this area a lot, having those contacts can definitely help.
You might want in Zendesk, if everybody has from their past transactions where they've dealt with communities that have HOAs, if you can label and post those documents, the rules and regulations and declarations, and have them sort of in a file that's available to all the agents, that can be very helpful so that everybody doesn't have to try to go recreate the wheel.
So we did that, Deborah, and I actually changed my policy. We don't have it posted anymore because I was nervous about the liability of we pull docs that got changed, right? They changed the policy. We provided it to them. So I don't want to do that. I want all requests coming. You know, we can use, hey, we found something that another agent attached to a listing or something like that to just get an idea. But we should always get the latest and the greatest from the management company because they can change their policies on this stuff. Right, this condo complex that I was just talking about is right now trying to make a change that says no more than 4 people. So if that gets passed at this meeting minutes, that's not going to show up in the bylaws that were posted last year, right? So I always want you guys, so we pulled that down. We used to keep something like that, and I think we could be exposing ourselves to some liability there. So let's always get the latest and the greatest. All right. Tons of great stuff today, guys. What a way to start the week. Have yourselves an awesome Monday. Look forward to talking to you again tomorrow morning. Go get them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye, guys.